Recently, we noticed our Samsung front-load dryer was no longer getting our clothes hot and dry, so I knew immediately the heating element had gone out in the unit. This happened about 4 years ago, and I was able to replace it. I did use some videos off of YouTube to help me. There are several videos out there that are very good at this. Here is the model and serial number of our particular dryer, but a lot of different Samsung dryers with different model numbers use the exact same heating element. This is the kit that I ordered from Amazon, and you'll notice it comes with several different components. I'm only interested in the main heating element for my task today because that is what has failed. So I don't know what these other components are. I'm not replacing those. I'm only replacing the heating element.
Hey everybody, Cruiseman here for another behind the scenes with Cruiseman today. Nothing to do with motorcycles. I'm actually having to replace the heater element in this Samsung dryer. I'm going to see if I can't use Cruiseman's mechanical skills to replace this heater element. So I've already pulled out let me show you what I've done. I built these pedestals to set the dryer and the washer on, and I had to use a jack to jack them up enough so I could wheel them out so I could get to everything I needed to get to. Little hydraulic jack here that I slip underneath that pedestal, and that raised the pedestal up enough so that I could get the dryer, and that way I could unplug it and I can start doing some disassembling and move this jack out of the way. So this is where the dryer normally sits. You can see the 220 outlet there. I've gone ahead and unplugged it. First thing I have to do is I have to take off these two screws, one on each end, because this top panel has to come off. And then once the top panel comes off, I can get this front control electronic panel off.
I know some of you watching this are going to be upset that this has nothing to do with motorcycles, but occasionally I have to work on things other than the motorcycle. So I just thought I'd go ahead and videotape this process in case any of you out there have a Samsung dryer and you ever need to replace a heating element. You never know. I get a lot of views on these weird home improvement things sometimes. I think it's also important to point out that the more comfortable you get working on your motorcycle, you learn how to work on other things as well, which can save you a lot of money.
The next thing we have to do is remove these 3 Phillips screws that hold this front panel on. I believe, if I remember correctly, it flips forward. We have a couple of electrical connectors we'll have to deal with, but we'll deal with those in a second.
I should point out, if any of you do watch this and decide to do this on your own, make sure you have the dryer unplugged. You do not want to work on the interior electronics of this dryer unplugging anything unless the main 220 plug has been disconnected.
You can see here that's just kind of held in place with some little tabs, slip into some little slots. And then we have these 2 electrical connectors that go to this control panel. So we're going to go ahead and remove, pull these connectors apart, and then we'll remove this panel and set it off to the side. Getting these electrical connectors apart, it's not too unsimilar to connectors you might find on the Goldwing. Little tab you press down here, and you should just be able to pull it out like that. Now that's disconnected. I believe you press in, now it's down, and once you release that second one, this panel just wants to come off. So we'll go ahead and lift it off and put it off to the side. So now what we have to do is we have to remove this entire front panel here, because the heating element is going to sit down here in this lower right corner. It's behind this panel. Now there are 4 screws here, 1, 2, 3, 4, a couple of metal tabs right here, and if we open the door, there's a towel in there that probably never got dry. And we've got looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 screws in here that will need to come off.
I should mention that all of these screws are Phillips screws, and they're all small self-tapping screws. I think these two on the left, I'm not even sure if these had to come out. These are actually machine screws, but all of the other screws I remove in this process are small self-tapping metal screws. I should also mention that to make things easier, I have a magnetizer for the screwdriver, and I magnetize the tip of the screwdriver. That way when you remove a screw, it doesn't just fall on the ground or fall inside the dryer area.
And these screws have a kind of a little star washer on them. Okay, let's see if that lets me get this off of here. There's a wiring harness right here. It has to come out. Shoot. I think it just pulls out. Yeah, like that. And this should just lift off like that. Okay, this is kind of what we're after right here. This is the heating element sitting up on top of this little frame down here. We've got to take those two screws out down at the bottom. And eventually we have to remove that screw at the top. I think it just fits into some slots at the back and the whole thing comes out, but it's been so long since I did it I forgot. You can kind of see the heating element inside of there. Get the light up there where you can see it.
First, I'm going to remove the two screws that hold this little mounting frame in place. The heating element unit sits on top of this structure. I should mention that I did watch a couple of YouTube videos on how to do this, and every one of these Samsung dryers is similar, but there are subtle differences between the year models.
Duct at the back somewhere.
But you can usually make your way pretty good if you have a Samsung dryer. They should all be very similar.
To get it. Okay, there's that frame out. And the only thing holding this in now are these wires. I had originally marked, last time I was in here, blue, blue. I knew these wires went here. There's a blue, there's a red down here. I think I just marked where the blue ones went. That's why it's always a good idea to take pictures and video of stuff as you do it. So the blue goes on top, red goes on the bottom, and over here this blue goes on top. There we go. And the black one goes on top here. So these two, the blue and the black, go to the back. These two go to the middle, and then these two go to the very front. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this apart. There are some other components here that we'll be removing as we go through this. There's some screws that hold this together. There's 3 on this side, 3 on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and take those apart and we'll open up this shell. Another way to do this, probably a smarter way to do this, would have been to leave that wire harness connected to these components and just remove the components while leaving the wire harness connected. because now I have to make sure I get everything oriented correctly when I put it back on here. I know that this is where the blue wire goes. I know the blue goes up here. I know the black goes on the top here. There's actually 4 Phillips screws on this side that hold this shell together, and there's 3 on the other side. But first we have to remove these components because they actually help hold it together as well. Just want to make sure I remember this orientation. I'm going to go ahead and mark this as the top. Lift this off and see. So here's our old heating element. Yeah, and it's broken right there. You can see the break. So that is why we weren't getting any heat. Okay, so this basically is going to be replaced with this one here, this new one. You can see. Being careful not to touch the coil with my hands because that could weaken it, get any oils on there. There is a trick to getting these out. There's a little tab that you have to bend.
The terminal tabs for the heating element slip through slots on this little ceramic connector, and they're held in place simply with this little tab that's bent up, keeps it from falling out the back. These come in from the back. So what we have to do is we have to bend those little tabs down using a needle nose plier, and then you can simply pull those connectors out from the back.
Kind of remember that you have to bend that tab down to get those out. And there's one on the bottom. And then, yeah, then it just pulls right out. Like that right there. Right in its place. Like that. I'll bend it up a little. And then we're going to bend this little tab here up. And that little tab up. Okay, so I've got all my screws back in. I went ahead and wrote on here today's date, the last time I replaced the heating element. I've got my screws back in. I did not replace this part here because on the new one, there's no way to know which way the polarity is on the new one. Farthest one's back. This is the black one, goes on top. Like that. This is the blue one, it goes on the bottom. Black one goes here. Nope, blue one goes there, sorry. And the blue one goes on top here. And the red is on the bottom right there. Okay, so now I can set it up in there. Like that. And that screws into there.
I was able to buy this replacement heating element on Amazon. I think I paid about $25 for it, and it probably took me an hour to do this repair. I did check, and the best deal I could find from a local repair service was going to be well over $600 to replace this heating element. So you'll save, $500 to $600, maybe even more by doing this job yourself. And it's really not that hard. It's just removing some screws, and it just takes a little time.
Okay, we got these 3 slots at the bottom down here. And they're going to slip over these little tabs on the front. If I can get in here with that door in the way. Make sure I've got everything. I've got to plug this back in. Okay, that's in. And now we will put that in place. These 4 screws. I'm not sure these 2 screws had to come out. Might just be those 2 at the bottom. Okay, close the door. I'm going to plug this back in. This is the one with the blue, black, and yellow wire, which is this one right here. Okay. Okay, so we're re-hooked up there. Okay, so let's give it a test. Let's see if we can turn it on. Okay, it does turn on. And we're just going to try time dry. We'll just try it on medium heat. It is running, so that's a good sign. It's not throwing any kind of error code. We'll let it run for a few minutes, and then we'll see if the heater element's working. Decided to go ahead and test this before we put the top cover back on, just in case I have to take everything off again. Okay, it's only been running about a minute. Let me see if there's any warm air inside the tumbler. Yep, it's warm. So I think that's going to solve our problem for now. Let me put the top back on, and we'll put it back in place. Now it's in. Okay.
So as I prepare to raise up this pedestal with the dryer and position it back into place, I want to remind you that I appreciate you watching this video. You never know when somebody might be interested in an odd job like this.
Okay, doesn't have to come up very far. Just enough for me to get the...
Now, what I am going to do is ask you, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. I much appreciate it. This is a behind-the-scenes video for my members only, so thanks for watching. I promise you the next video will be motorcycle-oriented, but I had to get this done so free up some time to get back to work on the Honda Goldwing.
And then we let it down.